Hi, welcome to the first ever edition of Rob's Mailbag here on SB Nation's YouTube channel. If you want to send me a question for next week, the email address is robsmailbag, R-O-B-S mailbag at sbnation.com. If I get enough questions, whatever I don't use here, I'll probably write about them. Email questions are a great idea generator for me, so send what you got, and I'll get to a lot of them one way or the other, either here or at Baseball Nation. First question today is from Ted. Rob, with the early success in D.C. this season, how much do you think the front office is kicking around the possibility of calling up Bryce Harper sooner rather than later? Well, first, Ted, have you seen what Harper has done so far this season? Last year, after getting promoted to Double-A in July, Harper batted .256, .329, .395. That's .256 batting average, .329 on base, .395 slugging percentage in 37 games. That's pretty good for an 18-year-old in Double-A, but those numbers did not suggest that Harper was ready then to hit well in the majors, or that he would be this spring. He did start this spring in Triple-A, has 10 games there, batting .220, .256, .341 in those 10 games. So, I mean, yeah, it's only 10 games, not representative, but they do sort of fit with what he did last year in Double-A. So I'll say what I've been saying about Harper all spring and winter. There's really no reason for them to give him a job. He hasn't really earned that yet with his performance in the minors. I think that they'll bring him up when they think he's ready to help them win, and I don't think he's there yet. So maybe this summer, if he has a great May in Triple-A, sure, we might see him. But I think that bringing Harper up has less to do with what the Nationals are doing than what he's doing. And to this point, he hasn't done anything to deserve a call-up. Next question is from Jimbo. Rob, love your work. Thanks, Jimbo. The other day I was watching the Rangers play, and Ian Kinser stole second base clearly. But he slid past the bag, and the umpire called him out. In the box score, it's listed as a caught stealing, and he was not credited for stealing second base. Though the umpire never signaled safe when he stole second, it was obvious he was safe, and the out came after the steal, and he came off the base on the head-first slide. What gives? Shouldn't he be credited with a steal of second at least? Thanks. Well, Jimbo, I would say no. I have the rule right here. Rule 10.08E. When a runner is tagged out after oversliding a base while attempting either to return to that base or to advance to the next base, he shall not be credited with a stolen base. Now, you might ask why. It makes sense if you think about it. I didn't see the play in question, but quite often you'll see a base runner overslide a bag because he had to overslide it essentially to be safe. He might reach around and just grab the edge and not get enough of the bag where he can hold on, or you might see a guy just start his slide very late, so he's got more momentum going in, more speed, and that enables him to get to the bag before the tag is applied. But I think that it's obvious in many cases that oversliding the bag is the result of an advantage that the runner got one way or another, and it wouldn't have been safe if he hadn't overslid the bag. I think you can argue that there are times when a guy overslides and just makes some weird mistake, and he could easily have been safe if he just hadn't done that. But generally speaking, it makes sense, I think, to not credit a runner with a stolen base if he hasn't stolen it in a way that would allow him to actually remain on the base when he's tagged. So I think it's like most baseball rules, almost all of them. Once you drill down a little bit, it does make sense, even if it doesn't seem so initially. Next question, this is from Jake. Dear Mr. YouTube Star, thank you for that, Jake. Last week you posted an interesting speculation as to whether or not Jamie Carroll was the oldest player ever to become a regular at one position for the first time in his career at age 38. Would Jeff Rabelais, who became a regular second baseman for the Pirates at 39 in 2003, qualify for that title? Well, first of all, and thanks for reading the Jamie Carroll piece, which is still available. Search Jamie Carroll on Baseball Nation. I didn't really try to discern whether Carroll is the oldest player to become a regular, because that's essentially impossible. Well, it's impossible for me to find out. I'm sure lots of players have become regulars at 38 or 39, who knows, maybe even 40, for a few days or a week or a month. So yes, Rabelais did do that at 39. Rabelais, 2003, took over at second base for the Pirates on May 24th, and over the next 2+ months, he started 40 games at second base for the Pirates. So he was way more than anybody else. He was the regular second baseman, so he was more regular than anybody I know about for the first time. But depends on our cutoff. Rabelais was not the Pirates regular second baseman all season. He was their regular second baseman for roughly 2.5 months. Does that count? It depends on where your cutoff is. That's why I wouldn't suggest that Carroll is the oldest player to become a regular. He is beginning the season as the Twins regular at shortstop. But he might lose his job next week or next month. And so we probably wouldn't count him as having been the Twins' regular second baseman all season. So we could go back somehow, I suppose, and find out which players have become regulars for the very first time at a position for a week or a month or 2 months, whatever it is. We just need to draw a cutoff someplace. Whatever that cutoff is, I think that any reasonable cutoff, Jamie Carroll hasn't met that cutoff yet. Rebele, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know. I'd like to see a guy start 100 games at a position for the first time in his career. I would definitely count that guy. I'm not sure about Rebele, and Carroll's got a long way to go, obviously. Next question is from Matthew Glidden. Hi Rob, best of luck to YouTube mailbag work. I've long been interested in the history of baseball and labor. Do you think Marvin Miller will ever get in the Hall of Fame? And if so, are the powers that be likely to wait until after he passes away? Well, Miller is 95. The next election isn't until 2014, so, I mean, he's in great shape from what we're all told for someone who's 95. I mean, he's alive, that's great shape, but he's even better than most 95-year-olds. But he'll be 97 the next time. Who's to say he'll still be around then? We can only hope. I don't think that the Hall of Fame's powers that be are conspiring somehow against him. I think the powers that be aren't really all that interested one way or the other in whether Marvin Miller is in the Hall of Fame. The problem so far has just been the process. He's been eligible a few times under different voting systems and hasn't made it under any of them. As the committee that would consider him is now composed, it's, I believe, 8 players, 4 baseball executives, most of whom are not young. I'm not sure, I doubt if there are any young ones on that committee, and 4 older, when I say older, I mean older than me, I suspect. I don't think they're all in their 60s or 70s, baseball writers. And Miller did not get the required 12 of 16 votes last time. I suspect most of the players vote for him. I suspect a few of the writers vote for him. And I suspect maybe one or none of the executives vote for Miller. And of course, there's a history there. Obviously, Marvin Miller and baseball executives spent many years fighting with one another over various things. Miller was one might say, belligerent, pugnacious, certainly, and was not beloved by a lot of baseball people. And I think that's obviously hurt him to this point. I do think he'll make it. I'm not sure I would vote for him. I'm 85% sure that I would. My issue with Miller is that there's no precedent for electing a labor leader. So that's where my little wiggle room comes in. I do think he probably should be there in the Hall of Fame. I do think he will be. Maybe not the next time around, though, when he's 97. It might take another few years, another decade, or at least till the committee has different members, perhaps a few younger members, especially in the writers and executives class. Well, that's all I got today on in Rob's Mailbag. Hope you enjoyed it. Be back next Tuesday with another edition. Email box is robsmailbag@sbnation.com. Please send your questions, and I'll be answering at least 4 of them next week. Thanks very much.